Hello, I'm Adrian from THESPIKE. Here we have Sideshow, VALORANT caster, analyst, and does everything on the desk. Just I guess this interview is sort of like a bit of kind of picking your brain as one of the like you're pretty the industry kind of pretty in depth, and also just like asking about like sort of casting and also just maybe a bit about like personal life.
Sure.
So I think to firstly start with, there were discussions of an esports winter happening a year or two ago, and those discussions seem to have kind of like subsided a little bit this year. Just wanted to ask you to like sort of give the viewers at home a little TLDR of what that is and sort of your take on what's currently happening with sort of the esports landscape financially.
Yeah, so the esports winter was mostly, I think, due to the fact that a lot of the esports organizations are buoyed up by venture capital investments. A lot of that is also going to be contingent on how easy it is to borrow money as well, because that solves a lot of your cash flow issues. Whether or not you're able to borrow from, you know, whether it's VC or whether it's from other interested parties. Recently you had a period, the period of the boom was where you had very, very low interest rates overall. Those started to crawl up, and so it became more expensive. So people were looking to take cost cutting measures. It was also, there was a bit of a lapse in the industry had been relying on the expectation that you would be able to sell streaming rights. And after Overwatch League had some success, limited success with being able to get streaming rights sold through Twitch, and YouTube has stopped even paying like streamers exclusive deals. In the West, or at least in like English speaking channels, those streaming rights deals don't really seem to have materialized. It's not like we're on TV or something where they exist too. So I think a lot of the space, rather than viewing it as an esports winter, it's kind of now just like, well, previous expectations have had to be realigned, and now we're looking towards different things. Like, for example, digital goods within Valorant is a really big focus for the esport, right? So making decent partnership agreements so that the orgs are not financially hamstrung by buying into the league in the first place, and making it a worthwhile investment by being able to get the fans to actually part with money, which has always been a big problem in esports too, by giving them stuff that they'll actually care about, which in this space is like digital goods. That seems to be the path forwards that at least Valorant is focused on.
So, I mean, this is obviously not a very simple question I'm going to ask you, but the partnership league, it's been here for the past 3 years, and you mentioned how digital goods have been one of the solutions to um, sort of solving all of this. Do you think that this sort of model has been quite beneficial for that as a whole?
Yes, I think that Valorant's done an extremely good job at being able to get good digital goods out there, stuff that people want. I mean, the sales have been extremely large. I think their split model is pretty decent too. I mean, as far as I'm aware, could be incorrect on this, but I think it works something like the teams that get to champs get like 2 shares of it. The teams that don't get to champs still get 1 share. So, it's not completely determined on whether or not you make it to the big tournament at the end of the year, though that is still a massive boost. For different orgs, like how well your skin is designed and how popular your team is matters a lot. But I think the Leo's talked about it, the redesign of how partnership works to try to incentivize kind of investment from teams that are not locked in for years and years, to try to get some of that like tier 2 integration going. It seems to be something that they're focused on for 2027, and that does seem like a good direction to go in. Now, how are you going to do that with digital goods, though? I'm not quite sure, because it does take a while to spin those up, right? So even the Ascension teams, when they win, they don't immediately have digital goods at the start of the next year. The skins took maybe until like March or April or something to get released. So if you have more tier 2 teams coming in and out, then that might not be an avenue that they can really access. But a lot of this is all just like, looking towards the future and speculative. There's no real like concrete answers. It's figuring out as you go.
One of the sort of bigger changes that I've noticed in sort of like your just online persona or is the sort of fact that you've kind of evolved into the face of Plat Chat a little. Like obviously you've been there since the start, but now, well, visually your head is in the middle of all the thumbnails. Just kind of wondering, was that kind of like a natural progression? Was were there any discussions about that, and sort of Now that it's been a couple months, how do you sort of feel about all of it?
Well, I'm not making the thumbnails, so let's start there. I mean, it's not an ego trip. It's mostly because I've always wanted from the very beginning to try to watch as much as I can. Now, I can't watch everything. I think that people who do are a bit mental. I mean, even Slicky can't watch literally everything because China and Pacific are happening concurrently. So, he dabbles in a bit, but he's mostly left China to the side. So even the most dedicated people still can't get it all in. So anyway, I try to watch as much as I can. And that means I'm in a position to do the show more often than other people because I've got, more of a wide awareness of the scene than some others who might be specialized. So, but even then, I still like host the show quite a lot instead of giving my analysis. It's just you need a lot of bodies to be able to cover that amount of matches that happen throughout the year, and I'm down to do it because I think it's fun.
Fair enough. And you've kind of mentioned that you're someone who knows a bit about everything about the industry and whatnot. I mean, this has been a very dynamic road for you. Like, just sort of the past maybe. Honestly, I don't know how old you are, but let's say the past 10 years, like leaving med school and um, sort of going into TFT and whatnot, a TF2 or whatnot. Um, what would you sort of tell your, let's say, 22, 23-year-old self when you sort of just started getting into all of this and when sort of the default path of going to uni didn't really work out?
Yeah, I mean, it's a complex question, really, and it's difficult because inherent within the question is this tackling the survivorship bias because many great people have said it better than I will, but it's almost like asking somebody who won the lottery, like, "Oh, how did you do that?" There is a large element of luck to it, and you're asking somebody that succeeded where other people might have traveled a very similar path and not quite made it. And so some of it's just about being in the right place at the right time and the effort you put in happening to be rewarded at that point. But I think certainly if I look back to like when I was actually in university, I've done like a tremendous amount of growing since then. And one of the things that I've really focused on is leaning heavily into practices that are good for me being more productive. I think when I was at university, I was just very, I don't know, procrastination was the key. And I think that I went into esports because it was something that I had motivation to do. So I had no discipline. I would just procrastinate if I didn't feel like doing something, but that was somewhere that I really enjoyed, and so I had a lot of motivation for it. Now, I wouldn't say really, I mean, it sounds a bit cold and callous, but I'm not driven by like motivation and excitement every day I wake up working in esports. It's more to do with like building habit, building routine, and finding value in all of the small spaces. I am somebody that likes to spread myself fairly wide and have a lot of different interests. And so one day, if you're not feeling one of your interests, you can still find value in another and tease out that productivity. So but it all takes time. I don't think if I went back and told my 20-year-old self that, he'd tell me to shut up. So,
Um, really quick question. My friend mentioned that you got like 40 stars in your A levels. Can you confirm that?
what did I get in my A levels? No, I think I got 3 A's and an A star. Maybe I can't remember. I did well in my A levels. I mean, you have to in order to get into med school in the first place. But yeah, I certainly if I went back now, I've got a much better work ethic, so I do a bit better now. But yeah, I was mostly just kind of winging it back then.
Fair enough. And I guess my last question is about the work life balance, the sort of interest, spreading your interest out kind of thing. Because obviously, last year compared to this year, we're seeing you like kind of coming in halfway into these international tournaments, sort of streaming the first half and spending time at home, spending time with the family, etc. Like, have you been enjoying that like sort of transition? How has that all gone for you, and sort of what's next in the future?
Yeah, it's not a deliberate decision. It's a decision made by Riot to try to. Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for them necessarily, but from my perspective, it adds in more people to these global events. Normally, the global events are run by just a select few people that get to be on the mic, and you don't get to see great other casters that are coming up. Like, for example, Mitch and Wyatt. Recently in EMEA, they brought up Cairo and Hazard, who I think are excellent too. We've been mixing in a lot more people at the beginning of these events, so I think that's a good thing generally. It has offered me more time to be able to do other stuff as well. I made a very deliberate focus at the start of this year to try to actually like dial off a little bit with Valorant stuff and not go as heavy of like streaming everything, trying to co-stream constantly. I'm doing more VOD watching, which is more efficient because you get to skip stuff, so that's more time efficient. Leaves me time to be able to do other things like be more healthy, cook properly, go to the gym properly, go outside, spend time with my wife, like these kind of things that are a requirement if you want to live a real life. But yeah, it's nice. I mean, I do have a lot of varied interests. One of the problems is the more hobbies you get, the more things that you're bad at. So I've been trying to pick up what I can, and enjoying playing like tennis, for example, is something that I'm more focused on this year. And not as much badminton actually. No, been doing a lot more reading though. A lot of stuff into politics and economics that I don't normally talk about on stream, but it's a big interest of mine. So yeah, I've been dabbling more in that kind of stuff while still keeping up with Valorant enough to be able to do my job at a very competent level, but not going complete bonkers mode except on the run up to champs, which justifies it.
Well, thank you so much for the interview, Sideshow. It's been a pleasure.